and thank you for joining today's Environment and Energy Leader webinar titled Deep Dive into Use Cases of AI-Driven Platforms Today and Tomorrow, sponsored by EHsAI in partnership with Aptum, All4, and Motec. My name is Jessica Hunt, and I'm the Director of Live Events for E&E Leader. It's really nice to be back on camera with you guys this week. I will apologize in advance if you hear one or both of my dogs barking during today's live event. Hopefully we won't get any deliveries in the next hour or so. We will be holding a Q&A session at the conclusion of today's event. So if you have questions for the speakers, please submit them over the next 30 to 40 minutes or so. If you have any technical issues during today's event, please utilize the Q&A widget, which is open for you right underneath the slides. We do have resources that the team at EHsAI provided, so please take some time to look at the different items in your resource widget. At this time, I'm going to get ready to hand the presentation over to Marcel. He is VP of EHS at EHsAI. So Marcel, without further ado, take it away.
Wonderful, and thank you, Jessica. I really want to start. Thank you, Lara Heron from Aptin, and Lindsay DeBell from All4, and Anne Monin from Monine Tech for taking the invitation of join us today. And it's very special thank you for all of you that are participating and join us today. Today, you will hear directly from the panel on a series of real-life experience about identifying, adopting, and implementing advanced technology, specific artificial intelligence, or AI, platforms to improve your environmental health and safety performance. We really hope that what you will hear from our panel will help you, will encourage to move forward and adopt this type of technologies. We will focus on the use of AI as today, and we will close dreaming a little bit about what we believe lies in the future. So let's start with a few set of questions, and I will ask our panel. So when you first start exploring emerging technologies for your work, for your day-to-day work, what environmental health and safety challenge you were trying to overcome? And I will ask Anne to start this.
Okay, so I hope you can hear me. Thanks for having me here. So starting this channel, we're trying to overcome the challenge of understanding the compliance requirements associated with a very complex company. We tend to have expertise centers in industry that are made up of experts with 27 plus years of experience that are able to identify which regulations apply to us, and turning over that type of skill set and competency to the next generation has been extremely difficult, as there is a plethora of information to go through to be able to scan, pull out that information to determine exactly what is required of all of us, and then how does it apply to the technologies we have in our facilities. And so our big challenge was, how do we scan to the plethora of regulations, pick out those tidbits of information that are requirements that are applicable to our facilities, and then how do we go ahead and build a compliance program around that? Myself?
Perfect. Thank you, Anne. So, Laura, you will follow?
Yeah.
What was your experience?
So our compliance challenge was helping clients that have multiple facilities across multiple states and even into Canada, and assisting them with gathering the information from all the permits that they have for each of those individual facilities. So you can see the task can be quite overwhelming with trying to track compliance requirements for, let's say, for example, wastewater treatment permits at a facility in New York versus a facility in California versus Texas. So we were looking at using the EHsAI to be able to generate spreadsheets of requirements for these permits to provide to our client and to assemble them into very easy to use documents that would help them with compliance for all the various different types of items that are embedded in these permits. So that was our biggest challenge that we wanted to help our clients with.
Super, Laura. That's exactly one of the big features. And what about you, Lindsay? What about your challenge?
Yeah, so I mean, similar use case, but a bit downstream. Of we had several clients who are trying to take that content and then load it into a MIS solution focused on compliance tasking. So how do we bring all that information in the correct format for that MIS solution to drive the tasks related to all those requirements? So brings in a little more technical complexity once you're trying to, get that content restructured and mapped and all into the system. But fundamentally starting with the same Lego blocks of permit requirements, regulatory requirements, and then how to get to the end game of knowing what your compliance obligations are and your status with them. And so we were just taking it to that next level of trying to bring it all into an enterprise MIS solution where there's visibility across the enterprise on all of that information versus it living in, individual spreadsheets at facilities.
Perfect. That's exactly where we were trying to help. So for those in the audience that was not familiar with ehsAI, I was exactly from the three answers that you hear from Anne, from Laura, and from Lindsay. That's exactly how we were. I'm an environmental health safety professional. I lost all my hair doing all these extremely complex compliance management and process. So here's a quick example here. So this is a simple fertilizer plant. And you can see if you are in the US or in any other well-regulated jurisdiction, you will face hundreds of permits. And then you have hundreds of chapters of regulations that cover all the environmental aspects, all your health and safety. And in the environment, you have your water, your air, your hazardous material. So you have tons of requirements that you need to identify and comply with. And not in top of that, we will identify those requirements, but for different type of sources. That's right. You have your environmental permits, you have your regulations. And some in the health and safety world, it's not only the regulations, but then you have a lot of codes or standards in top of those. And for all those companies that advance, that they are not only the compliance, in the pure legal compliance aspect, that they have the management system, then you have a lot of conformance with the management system. So what we're trying to do here is apply AI to extract all those requirements and recommendations from all use documentation. So what we do in ehsAI as today a case study. Basically, what we want to present briefly here is how they work. The platform is a powerful and patented artificial intelligence engine that start with a PDF or a document or extracting directly from the CFR process for those US-based audience and apply artificial intelligence to identify, extract every requirement or recommendation from the document and organize in a meaningful way that allows all users to create your compliance management system, your compliance calendar, your audit checklist, or easily migrated into environmental health and safety softwares of EMIS. So what we say in summary, in few clicks, you can get applying AI from all your documents to your relevant requirements or recommendations in a click. So this is the little only part of the presentations that we want to do to introduce a little about ehsAI. We want to return to our protagonist, which is right there in your screen. You all have been using ehsAI as a neat example of one application of AI. Help our audience by sharing how was your process. Tell us, how did you identify the need for digital transformation and what approach you took to adopt it? In this case, ehsAI. So let's start. Lindsay, go first now.
Okay. So the need was really obvious for us. I mean, the level of effort and cost that goes into building out one of these compliance tasking solutions, especially for clients like ours who are really looking for that full package. They don't just want a compliance calendar with the action items. They want full traceability in the system back to the regulatory drivers. They're integrating with asset management systems so that the compliance tasks go out as work orders to operations staff. All of that, results in a huge volume of data, and it's complex data. I did the math, so adding onto your little pyramid of math, an average small air permit in the US could easily have about 250 individual fields that need to be populated in that EMIS solution, plus about 50 joins between various tables showing all the relationships between that information. A more complex, like a complex air quality Title V permit, you're into 10 times that much. You scale it all up to an enterprise level implementation, you're looking at hundreds of thousands of individual data fields that all need to be populated correctly and accurately, reviewed by multiple people. So the need was obvious because it's really hard, given that volume of effort, to show a strong ROI on the projects. The functional value of them is clear and everybody can see it, but the sheer cost involved in implementing them initially is really high. And then on top of that, it's not a once and done effort. I mean, you get all your content in there at the startup to roll it out to all your facilities, and then it's an ongoing exercise because your enterprise is, receiving new permits, new plans as things evolve in the regulatory framework, and just for renewals, you're bringing in new facilities, you're divesting facilities. There's just a lot of upkeep to the content as well. So the need was really obvious. To your question of did we trust it initially? I mean, we're all scientists and engineers at heart. We all need to touch and feel to gain trust. So we definitely, we instantly saw the potential and trusted there was a lot of potential there. And then it was validating how close was it to meeting its potential when it was still in its beta stage, which is when we started engaging with you guys. So and in terms of decision makers, we decided to go the route of engaging with a key client who we were in the midst of one of these really big implementations with. And we're like, there's this new emerging technology. It's still beta, but we think it has a lot of potential to bring down level of effort and improve quality. How do you feel about doing a tech eval with us and then seeing if we want to move into a pilot? So that's the approach we did. We took a very structured process. We started with a proof of concept study that was focused on very specific questions about how it performed on a technical level, and also about how would we need to re-engineer our business process in order to take full advantage of it. By going in with some very specific targeted questions, we kept the scale of it small. And within a couple weeks, we were able to walk away with a clear thumbs up from everybody at the table that we were ready to move into another phase. And that next phase was a pilot. And so that was looser. We just incorporated it into use in our overall project.
Did we lose Lindsay, or did I lose everyone?
I was.
So we might have to come back to Lindsay.
Yeah, I hear. Jessica, are we alive? That was.
I was just going to say, and I apologize to the audience watching. It seems like we're having some technical difficulties on one of the presenters' sides. So I'm going to see if I can get in touch with Lindsay to have her restart. So if somebody wants to take over for her for right now, that would be great.
Yeah. Perfect. We were hearing from amazing story from Lindsay, how she was migrating and do all the steps that she was accomplished that. I witnessed that part of the process, and I need to say that was amazing. So, but Laura, how was your experience? You can follow? Tell us about what was that.
Yeah, so we were pretty much on board with EHsAI right from the get-go. We had a client that had many facilities in different states across the United States who was partnering with us to look at this new technology, EHsAI, in order to get control of their permit compliance requirements. And so there was no convincing of us to adopt it. We were ready to go, and we were ready to launch it. And we just started going through the permits that the client had and putting them into EHsAI and just going through them, just starting at ground level. And we were very happy, and the client was very happy with what the output was and how they could use it and integrate it into their own compliance calendar and kind of marry the two. So that was pretty exciting, that you could take a permit, pull out the requirements, and then sync it with a compliance calendar that they already had. So that was a pretty exciting thing, and it took away a lot of the manual effort that one had to do in order to read through the permit, pull out the requirements, identify the frequency, what you had to do, and then put it into some type of spreadsheet and then upload it into a compliance calendar. I know I've done that manually, and it's taken a tremendous amount of time. And so to automate that was amazing, and it helped our client out so much. And so that's how we started assisting this major client of ours. Then we branched out to other clients as well, offering them like a demo, a free demo. Give us your air permit, give us your wastewater permit, give us your NIPDES permit. We'll put it into the program, upload it into the program, and provide you with an output and see if this is something that you think you can use in the future. And overwhelmingly, the response was, yes, this is great. This takes away all the manual effort. And I know on a personal note, for me, I do a lot of environmental compliance audits, and I'm tasked with going through the facilities permits, SOPs, plans, even before I step onto the property. And I like to do that just so I know what I'm kind of facing going in. And I'm always frantically going through permits at the last minute. I always receive them at the last minute, it seems. And I'm going through permits, trying to pull out the requirements. Hey, do you have your your rolling totals for this emission unit, and do you have your DMRs, and do you and I can't even think of do you have your inspections that you need to do for your SBCC plants, and pulling that all out and writing it all down and then presenting it to the EH&S manager. Here, I need to see all of this, whereas I could have uploaded all those permits into EHsAI, pulled out all those requirements, and just said, here's a spreadsheet. This is what I need to see. I mean, that would have saved me a tremendous amount of time. So you can see the value of it, from a client's perspective, because I saw it myself doing that pre-audit, currently, which is an amazing amount of time that I now have to do other things prior to the audit, whereas before I was spending going through permits and SOPs and plans. So we were on board right away. As far as trusting the program, I don't trust anything. I was born and raised in New York, so you gotta prove it to me before I trust anything. So I was pretty skeptical. And then when I saw it work and saw how well it works and how easy it was to work with, and also the I guess from what I'm trying to say is that EHsAI is very easy to work with. If there is something that you want to see that you're not capturing in the output, tell them, hey, I want to see frequency of this requirement, because we know a lot of times you have quarterly sampling or monthly monitoring, and you have to populate that into a compliance calendar. And the first version of EHsAI didn't do that. And, folks were like, hey, can we incorporate frequency into the output of EHsAI, and they were like, yeah, we could do that. And the second version was there, and it was great. So, you know, it's very user friendly. It's very easy to use. If there is an instance where you get stuck on a document that's having a difficult time being read in EHsAI, and there's always workarounds, there's always ways around it. I have found it very, very flexible and very user-friendly. So hopefully that answers the question, Marcel.
Yes, definitely it does, Laura. Thank you very much. That's I was auditor for many years of my life, and I really wish to have that little planning. I know that auditors, we tend to evaluate that preparation, and so with EHsAI, I'm sure, I hope, and I'm glad that it's freeing some time to do more meaningful work. So definitely AI will not replace our brains, but definitely will help our brains to move faster and better.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No worries, Laura. Thank you. Lindsay, you were pretty much on the story. I don't know if you are back, if you want to have any closure on the system. You're talking about the clients that you get there and the approval to the process. So do you have any other line to add here? Or?
Well, I don't know exactly where I cut off, but you know, we went through proof of concept, then we went through pilot. Did that come through?
Yeah, that came through.
Okay, so I guess I would say we've been using it across, you know, all of our digital solutions projects since then. We recently joined a new organization, All4, which we're super excited about. And with them, we're actually partnering to introduce it to all of our more traditional EHS consulting services and just go for deep penetration across the board of like figuring out all the different places we can use EHsAI and how that can, you know, bring value to our clients. So that's kind of where we're at in the process. And in terms of ease of use, you know, the user interface has always not been an issue, right? Initially, we were in beta mode. We weren't even touching it. As soon as that rolled out, it was easy peasy. The ease of use in the context of how big of a portion of the problem the tool solves keeps getting better. I mean, every time you guys introduce new features, it allows us to bite off a bigger bite of the apple. And so that's where the ease of use is really growing over time for us, is how much of the problem can we tackle with the output.
That's exactly the approach that we're trying to get. We need to get a win-win relation with you as a consultant, and at the end of the day, we want to provide a better service to those end users. That's right, at the end of the pipe, and bring it to that concept. And you want to add some lines about those end users, those corporations using this type of technologies.
Yeah, sure. So looking at it from the client point of view, I spent all of my career in the on the industry side, in the business side. And so Laura touched on the fact that there is a lot of labor involved in identifying the requirements that are applicable to a facility. And there's no way getting around that. No matter 30-some years in this area, you still have to identify it at a facility level. What are those compliance requirements? And then Lindsay talked about the complexity. So we've seen the complexity of the requirements, the overlapping, the compounding of the requirements that we're seeing. And that does take a skill level that we may not have the time and energy or the people to be able to work on that complexity, even with our contracting partners that work with us throughout industry. And then the last thing Lindsay talked about was the proof. How do you implement it, get a foothold in an industry? So I think all of these are very important, but it comes back to the fact that the businesses are out there looking for it. They do know that these are complex issues. We have more and more facilities to demonstrate compliance. And there's so many regulations, and the technology just makes it that much more complex depending on what field you're working, what industry you're working in. So what I'd like to say is that from the industry side, we're looking for partners that can walk through and help us integrate these type of technologies into our common vernacular for our expertise. How do we build those competencies of our EH&S and S professionals so that they have confidence in using these tools that will allow them to make the right call when they're using the tools? Can I look at that and say, yes, that does apply to me? Or, here, I have a question to ask my expertise center to see if it applies, or a question to ask my accounting partner, my environmental partner, and say, do you believe this applies? And then you do go through the checks and balances. But you're going to always test that within the company with your support and your service providers. You're going to test that with every plant manager, every business leader, every ops leader that you're going to deal with, and every EH&S director that you work with. You're going to test it to ensure that it fits with your risk tolerance of your company, that it fits with your previous determinations. You're going to also be following case studies and enforcement actions, and you're going to see is the trend that the applicability is going to be more conservative than you originally thought. And so having that ability to trace your decision-making process on record, to be able to see why you made that decision record, is so important, because you may have an enforcement action that makes you go back through and say, how many times did we make this decision? And can I now reevaluate for these 14 facilities whether I need to take a different approach based on what I'm seeing in court? Or same thing for a new regulation. A new regulation came out, it's going to affect this specific code, a specific paragraph, and how many of my facilities have that regulation that we put an answer, we did an applicability analysis around. And then that can quickly make a management of change and throw it out to the facilities. So the ability to integrate the EH&S or the ehsAI technology into a company's portfolio of tools is going to be the most efficient, the easiest way to develop our talent, and the best way to validate and prove and justify results to our leadership.
That's an amazing and pretty good advice for our audience, I'm sure, here, because sometimes it's one thing to have a good idea, and definitely how to implement it. That's right. Who I need to get there, and how I fit it within the big picture of our every company processes. So, thank you.
Every
Thank
company needs data and proof. So this allows you to collect that data to demonstrate that your investment was valuable to the company. So there you go.
Yep, perfect. So if I can define one word to define you three, is amazing that you are pioneers. That's right. So you are adopting something that not many people are doing right now. That's right. So from that point of view about you being pioneers, as you taking benefits, can you tell the audience how some of the benefits that you are experiencing being an early adopter of the platform, and how those best practice that you have experienced have been working with this emerging technology or in general emerging technology companies? Laura? Excuse me. Are you mute, Laura?
I always do that. So frustrating. Sorry, everybody. So I think for being an early adopter or a pioneer of this technology, it really kind of says to your clients that you're willing and you're able to go the extra mile and learn something that will assist them with their compliance needs. And so it puts a sense of faith or trust in our clients with us, that we're always looking out to help them with emerging technologies that can assist them doing their job and their compliance better. So as far as being a pioneer, I think it just says to our clients that, we're on the cutting edge. We're trying to bring to you the most recent and available technologies to help you comply, to maintain and achieve compliance. So, as far as being a pioneer, I think that's pretty much what we're bringing to our client. And I'm sorry, the second part of your question, Marcel?
That was about it. What's the benefits of being working with this advanced technology or emerging technologies company?
Yeah. So yeah, I just to reiterate, I think it brings to our clients a certain confidence in us that we're always looking out for their best interest and to help them with compliance more efficiently, faster, cheaper, better.
Perfect. We always believe about the win-win relation, but definitely we are establishing here. I'm pretty confident it's a win-win-win relation, which is even better. So thank you.
Yes, I definitely agree.
Thank you, Laura. Lindsay, do you have?
Well, I absolutely agree with Laura. So, I mean, definitely being viewed by our clients for that we're looking for opportunities to work smarter, not harder. Bring better value to them. I would also say that, being an early adopter has given us more ability to influence your roadmap. And you guys have been very willing to gather and listen to feedback. And so we've definitely seen shifts in the roadmap, as Laura mentioned earlier. And, that has been awesome. And I think the last thing that has really been a benefit to us in terms of being an early adopter is having just more time. I mean, AI is coming, right? Ultimately, it's sort of the next big wave. There's definitely fear and concerns around it about how it's going to impact, is it going to eliminate some portion of my job or take away work? So we're starting that cultural shift early of getting people used to the idea that, AI is a tool just like any other tools, and we're, going to figure out how to utilize it to make our services better.
Yeah, you're pretty right. It's getting there, and it's not going away, but getting better. So for this in this round, I will have a special and different question for Anne. I guess as we were chatting before the meeting, Anne, did you ever imagine that AI will be used to improve and automate EHS workflows as we are looking at today? And do you think that this change was necessary?
Well, of course, I knew AI would happen sometime. I'm just very, very pleased that we're at the threshold of using that technology today. As you know, environmental health, safety, and sustainability professionals have always been at the forefront of innovation. I mean, you can think back to the massive macros that we built to create. We had to have standalone computers to run our activities. We invested in scanners and wearables, and we came up with common work practices and started building leading indicators and using continuous emissions monitoring, CEM, and we used any kind of tool that was created and leveraged it between us, collaborated with our contractors, our environmental contractors. On the side, we worked with other companies to try and advance the field in general to get us to the point where our data was accurate and ahead of the game. We've evolved, and we are the ready adapters. We are the first adapters, the first users. We're ready to innovate. But one of the key pieces of information is that there's a catalyst going on right now. The need of information and the dissemination and the synthesis of information is getting faster and faster exponentially. And we need to be able to use and be able to sort through data to see what is relevant, what is usable, and we have to talk to many stakeholders on those activities. So we know that AI needs to be used. We can't just use bots to go collect information from everywhere else. We can't consistently buy in 3 years a new management system tool. That we need to have these buildable modules that will allow us to share analytics, to break down decision making by predictive analytics. We need to be able to utilize the technology. Every single one of us uses the visual AI, if you will, where I am not a robot, and we're crowdsourcing that visual technology to say that's how many squares have a bus in it or a crosswalk. Or we are using that and turning that into real data, real information. and now using it to use the written language and regulations and disseminate that into real tidbits of data that can be used is just what we need at this time. But one thing that leads off the questions that you asked Lindsay and Laura comes down to the fact that I don't know who's our audience today, but any of those who are in business or industry, you'll recognize the fact that there's a trend. There is companies, no matter where they are in the maturity level of EHS programs, are looking for two things. They're looking to be recognized as sustainable companies, and they're being asked to identify innovation. And what that means in the company is those are the two areas that are being funded. Your work has to help the company be more sustainable, or has to be investing in innovation that can make the company better and more valuable. So this type of tool is a perfect way to partner with an integration partner and to use a tool to be able to use that pot of money that's set aside for innovation, not only in your EH&S world, but your other ethics and compliance areas. So yes, I did think AI was going to happen. I didn't quite know what it looks like, but over the decades, we stay plugged in with the new technology, work with some of our fabulous partners, and we continue to learn and collaborate. And this is a tool that can be used and is unique because we do deal with a lot of written requirements, not just here in the U.S., but across the globe, and being able to identify and catch relevant, turning the information into data is what we need assistance in to be better professionals in the future.
Beautiful. Well said. And definitely is there less regulations will not happen in any time, will be only but increasing. So we are here, and definitely with the first steps, and it's to move forward. So thank you for your feedback. Just before we move to the future, I just want to have a little quick round of the three of you saying in very, very few words, what have been that top benefits of adopting the digital platform that brought to you or to your clients or your organization, as a summary of that past before we move to the future? Lindsay, start with you.
Sure. So very concisely, it's reduced level of effort, it's increased consistency, and improved transparency in decision making. I'm going to elaborate slightly. It's not just overall reduced level of effort, it's also allowed us to shift work in ways to make better use of our resources. Senior resources doing higher value, things that make better use of their level of expertise, as well as junior staff. So better use of resources overall. Being able to transparently show how we're mapping requirements to the actions that they're driving, and using a library of very harmonized tasks. Bringing transparency to that decision making increases confidence in the overall solution. And to some of Anne's points about, levels of expertise and evolving workforces, just having more ability to quickly validate other people's decision making brings a lot of efficiency and quality to the process. And then, consistency, there's the obvious piece of breaking down the permit in a consistent way. And then the less obvious piece of once you've got more visibility on that decision making, you have the ability to start because normally it would be too inefficient. Are we making decisions consistently across the enterprise? Hopefully that was concise enough.
Oh, that's perfect, Lindsay. Laura?
Yeah, so the way that we've benefited from using ehsAI and bring it to our clients is it brings a fresh new perspective on how to approach environmental compliance. So it's a different way of looking at it. Traditionally, we sat down with a permit and we reviewed it, and it takes an enormous amount of time. You may miss requirements. You may not be consistent. Like Lindsay was saying, consistency is really key. And so it brings another perspective on how to comply with your permits, your SOPs, your plans, your regulations. And for us, that's what it's brought to me. That's what it's brought to our clients. And another thing that I just wanted to bring out, it ensures that you're able to capture all the requirements in a permit, in a plan, in a reg that you have to comply with. So it reduces the possibility of fines, of NOVs, notices of violations, enforcement warnings. So it brings an added level of confidence to the client and to me as well, that I'm not missing something that could potentially be an issue down the road. So it just brings a fresh new perspective and a higher quality of ensuring that you are capturing everything that a company or my clients need to comply with, our clients need to comply with.
Perfect. Yeah, that was a pretty good summary of all these little steps that you were mentioning earlier. That's all good, and again, it's all benefits that will be translated to your clients. And at the end of the day, we're not lost the perspective here. We are environmental health and safety. We want to make the environment the less impacted, the better workplace. And definitely, I'm extremely confident that when we are doing that, when you are doing that, we are also creating the ultimate goal, which is improve environmental health and safety performance. So I will turn to you, but I will turn to you as time flies, and we just have only a few more minutes. I will start you with my last round of questions that I want to say here. Looking at the future now, if you could have a magic wand, tell me about what is that desired tool or that will bring you a better that will help you work in a better way. So now you know EHsAI, you have been working with EHsAI, you know what AI can do for environmental health and safety in this area. Now you have the magic wand. What do you want to ask, Anne? Are you mute? And we're missing you.
Sorry, my phone's on now. Sometimes it's too hard to go that far in the future. I think there's some cautions here and some reward. I think what needs to happen is companies need to have a sound governance and approach. How do you look at this? The decision for compliance is not going to be made by a tool. It's going to be made by that company. They're going to have to be able to sort through the information better and faster with the use of this tool and our expertise that we hire. But the decision is made by the business. And so what I'd like to see in the future is complete integration so that our EHS professionals of the future are not EHS professionals. They are, our operations people are EHS professionals. Our supply chain are EHS professionals. That we have an expertise group, but we have well-rounded, integrated engineers, scientists, managers, et cetera, that understand the importance for their sustainable company. So in the future, what I'd like it to see is a tool that's not used for EHS, but that it allows us to look at regulations. It allows us to use our own process and governance to interpret that, determine applicability, have an oversight and review, but it's a trackable mechanism that will allow us to review our decisions in the future. Right now, things come out so fast, we make a decision, that's it, it's done, and we don't wait again until something happens either to our company or someone else in our industry, and then we have to go back and relook at it. So that continuous improvement, the looking at the maturity of our programs, the assessing our decisions. What will this next decision mean for past decisions we've made before? To have that streamlined is just a sheer amount of work taken off of our plate. And like Lindsay said, it does elevate the work of your talent to work on the right level decision making that's there with traceability, with importance, but with integration into your product development, your operations, your distribution, your clients' needs and requests. And so you want to be able to make this a tool that is integrated into how a company does their work. How do they develop new products? How they build new facilities? How they go through acquisitions and integrate those facilities into their family of manufacturing sites. So you want to have this integrated into business, not kept separate, as the EHS professional in the future will not be a standalone. It'll be a few more hats that we'll be wearing, but hopefully they'll be integrated in a way that you know who to ask the questions, you know where to go, and you know where to question your thought process, and your data can lead you there. So in the future, I'd like to see it integrated into business enterprise risk.
Perfect. I'm sure our product develop team is hearing this, is watching this one. So we are taking notes. We are making notes.
That's a future goal, and there's steps in between.
Perfect. Laura, the magic win is with you now.
Oh, wow. I was thinking about this when Ann was talking, and Ann is talking about way in the future. I'm kind of more like, what can we do with the permits and the information that I have in front of me? So I'm not as forward thinking as Ann is. So I'm thinking more of like, well, I would really like to see AI pull out information from like lab reports and populate them into forms. That takes a tremendous amount of time. And also looking at different languages. I know that EHsAI is looking at different languages and able to break down permits in different languages, because we're not, you know, our clients are global and they're across the world, and they have different types of regulatory entities they deal with in different countries and different types of permits. So for me, that would be very useful. Also breaking down standard operating procedures. You know, the program works very well with contracts. A lot of people realize that, but we have a lot of different contracts with different contractual requirements, so it works well with that. So I'm pretty certain and pretty confident that EHsAI can take a lab report, break it down, and populate it into a DMR or particular type of form such as that. So that's where I'm kind of thinking. I'm not as forward thinking as Ann is, but that's I'm kind of like in the weeds right now with what I have in front of me.
We need all of those things and back again. We need to be able to build contracts. We need to build procedures. So going down, breaking them down, and then building them up, I think, is necessary for enterprise.
And you had the magic wing is working, because I can tell you by the end of this quarter, you will be able to use the platform to do not only document in English, but French, German, Dutch, Spanish, and Portuguese. We have an amazing group of data labelers behind all the documents that you see, and great partners that have been working with us. So that part is coming. So your magic win is working. So let's pass it to Lindsay to see. Lindsay, how you work it?
So my wish list is between the two in terms of how far out it probably is, but closer to Laura. I'd love to see the toolkit expand so that we can use AI to start analyzing all the deconstructed information, you know, and for very tactical things like what is if we've got a library of task templates and we've got a deconstructed permit, what is the most likely task template that's the right match for this? And then, but with a user interface, to Ann's point, that allows that the final decision making rests with a human. I mean, they get to decide yay, nay, and then that mapping needs to be able to be revised, go through levels of review, and ultimately it's a, you know, business decision as to what is the correct task mapping of items. You know, final call is always the business call. So there needs to be opportunities to revise that content and then export it in a way that it can be easily brought into the, you know, EMIS solutions and populate not just the base tables, but all the relationships between the content. So that's my vision for, you know, the next big step.
Perfect. And again, I can thank you for the feedback, and definitely thank you for the previous feedback that we had, because actually your magic wing is also working, because we are working very hard on that. One of the things that I mentioned to Laura is, yes, we have a multi-language team that is creating that. And another amazing thing that we have in our team is we have at least 3 linguistics. And the way that they are managed, the languages and the construction and the syntaxes of every single sentence that we read from permits and document is amazing. As we are working in new smart fields that identify clearly what is the part, like Laura mentioned, I guess, before, about the frequency, about the event time driven. Now we are working in what we are doing or the limits, all these aspects. Now as we have the training data in the computer that identify out of every single sentence, hopefully we will use the art of the linguist to put it together and create those tasks in a simpler way. AI have been advancing at marvelous, and we are going to piggyback to those advances in the linguistic aspect of the AI, and hopefully your magic wing will be also working pretty soon, so we can get those tasks created from there. And definitely looking for partners. This since you have been working from us in day one, so definitely we're looking for all your data and your feedback to getting those happen. So hopefully your audience is going to be here, so we will be hear more and more about this. We will get 6 months from now, 1 year from now, and we'll reconvene to talk about how things have been improving. So this has been an amazing feedback and information that you have provided. I'm sure the audience has been enjoying this. I have been enjoying learning from you. And I'm sure I'm looking here, I cannot manage more than 5 screens in my, but I believe the question and answers are advancing. So Jessica, you will help us to capture those questions for the audience and start.
Thank you, Marcel. And thank you to Marcel, Lindsay, Anne, and Laura for a great presentation today. I really enjoyed listening to the discussion between the 4 of you. And I know, Marcel, you had some really thought-provoking questions, so we appreciate that. I do want to remind the attendees that we probably will not get a chance to answer all of the questions that were submitted today. We did get quite a few questions, especially over the last 20 minutes or so. But a member of the team will follow up with you as soon as they can if we do not get to your specific question. And if you are watching this on demand, please continue to submit questions because they will go directly to the speakers once this event is archived. All right, so let's get started. What advice do you have for an EHS manager out there trying to adopt new technologies? So where should they start? I don't know if Marcel, you want to take this, or Anne, Lindsay, or Laura, which one of you would like to start?
Sure, probably. I don't know. Anne, you want to go for the corporate perspective? Who to ask if I'm a EHS manager? Who to ask in my company?
So the EHS manager, your job, is to influence and to gain champions. So first I'd explore it and get a better understanding of what the tool can do. I would talk to someone like Laura or Lindsay and say, how have you been able to use it to do a good value assessment, to be able to put together that case for change for your company. Because what you do is you do internal sales. Then you're going to talk to your operations and say, would this be helpful? You're going to talk to your compliance and ethics people and say, is this helpful if we go through this? Can I save money? Can I do this? Can I do this? Is there innovation money for me to apply? What would this look like? What would the product look like? But you're going to have to learn as much as you can about the tool and what you would need to get it into your facility, and what value it would provide to start collecting interested parties within your own company. I would want to make sure that you hit at least that. If you don't have a supply chain, then your manufacturing and engineering or your operations group, definitely a business leader. You can even use one facility against another facility, maybe, to say, hey, this will help us be more innovative and be ahead of our numbers and cost less money for our long-term, headcount, et cetera. And in return, here's what we would have. So you do need to build that case, and you do need to use your external and your internal stakeholders and find yourself some champions, because most companies do have innovation money. You may have to show how it will not only help EHS, but it would help your operations. It'll help your product development, or it'll help your ethics and compliance issues that you're having, or it would be incredible information to put on your sustainability report or go in front of if you're looking for a finance and support and you have to put together ESG requirements. So think big picture, value, and start to gain your support system.
And I appreciate you touching on, oh, sorry, Marcel, go ahead.
No, that's it.
Okay.
Go next. Thank you.
No, I was going to say, I appreciate you touching on all of those aspects. I'm just going to piggyback on what she was saying there. And I would like to know from everybody's perspective, what are some of the biggest barriers that you have faced when, talking to the different stakeholders about adopting this new technology?
Lynn, I'll jump in and go first. Sure. So, there's typically the biggest barriers I have encountered are either change management type aversions. So you're trying to roll it out within your organization. It impacts how you do work. Various fears about how that's going to impact people and resistance to change. So that's a biggie. And then technological risk. Everybody's concerned that it's just not going to deliver. And so those are the two bigger risks I've encountered. The ones that I bump up against the most. The technology risk is the easier managed one because it's about just proving that it does what it is supposed to, and really helps when you're working with a partner like ehsAI, who's very transparent about the status of the product and their roadmap and how long it's going to take to get there. So some vendors are easier to work through and manage that risk than others with. The cultural piece is just change management, but it is always a big part of any digital project.
Laura, did you want to jump in?
I'm on mute again. Yeah, I think the biggest barrier for me, piggybacking on to what Lindsay said, was convincing others to embrace change. Everybody is slow to change, and it's difficult to change. I came up against that directly with a couple of people in my company and said, well, I'm going to have to go through the permit anyway, so why bother? Well, yeah, but you don't have to go through it as thoroughly. It's a tool that you can use to make your job faster and more accurate. So, yeah, I definitely bumped up against that. And it's the proof is in the pudding. People want to see what it can do and how it can benefit them. So I think the easiest way for me was just to show people. It was like, here, give me your permit, and I'll show you right now. We'll just parse a page, and I'll just show you how it works. And they're like, dang, that's pretty quick. And I said, yeah, I told you, So it's the proof is showing them. And once they see it work, they're like, wow, this is pretty cool. So yeah, I bumped into it, and then I can dispel it pretty quick. So it's been a good fit for us.
As we mounting more and more data from customers and users, definitely when you get that 2 days of effort are converted into hours is amazing to see. So definitely it's good.
I was just going to say some of the solutions that Lindsay and Laura provided by starting do it scale, start it as a test, show that you can quickly make changes and then you can leverage it. And, that's another way to get it tested and used at a small scale and then include it. You can use it with your interns. You have summer interns in. Why not have them run through the permits using this tool, and then you use it as an overview or something? What a better way to use your time, yet you're preparing new employees or interns to get you through that labor-intensive part faster, and then you can test accuracy based on that. We're doing it anyway. You do it every time. Every time you get a new permit, you do it every time you have a new tool that you're trying to enter your permits into, or next time you do a program review. So why not try small and move it faster? I worry that some people are going to be afraid that you're going to find compliance issues. That's one that you may have to see in the future, that there's a fear of finding things they don't know about yet. And that's a double-edged sword. The idea is, well, let's find it and make the correction now before someone else finds it and accuses us of hiding it. So, you know, that's one you may see in the future. But the fact that the proof is in the pudding, and Lindsay and Laura did a great job of showing you how there's lots of examples on how to do that. But use it scaled-wise and let people do their own return on investments and laud it within their businesses before adoption.
Great. Now, we really appreciate all of the insight that you guys provided today. I think we could probably do a whole nother hour or more just answering questions from the audience. So again, please, if you're on with us now, continue to submit questions, and you can also submit them post-event, as well as in the survey that's up on your screen. So I want to thank the teams for helping put together this presentation. It's been a really fun afternoon, and thank you to the audience for attending live and those who will be watching on demand. And we appreciate your patience with the minor technical issues that we had earlier on in today's event. So without further ado, this concludes today's webinar, and I hope everybody has a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.